Hello and welcome to Sports Spotlight, where this week we'll be talking about Arsenal's shock 2-0 win over Manchester City, South Africa's AB de Villiers hitting the fastest ever century in a one-day international, and Andy Murray's chances at this year's Australian Open. I'm joined by sports editor Nick Howson. Nick, we'll start off with Arsenal's victory over Manchester City. I said shock victory because no one really expected it to happen.
Yeah.
When was the last time the Gunners played this well against a top side?
Yeah, it's difficult to think of it, almost indicative of how bad their surge at any sort of title challenge has been in the last couple of years. And ironically, of course, this one comes in a year where they're totally off the pace and they can really only dream of a top four spot. It was a bizarre result in the timing, the fact Manchester City were in a really good run of form, hadn't lost since October, and yet they came unstuck against a team, as you say, infamously poor, particularly away from home against the big clubs. We saw that even earlier this season when they played Chelsea. Evidence that Arsenal really don't perform away from home against those big clubs. Fantastic result for them, particularly midfield. Their resources are very wafer thin at the moment. Francis Coquelin came in after a loan spell at Charlton Athletic and was absolutely fantastic. Santi Cazorla, whose form, particularly last season, was really variable. Didn't know what you were going to get necessarily from him. He was fantastic again, obviously scored the first goal, created the second for Olivier Giroud. We remember the abuse that Arsene Wenger got after the Stoke City game, that infamous video of the fans at Stoke Station. Whether this is a turning point for them or not, they'll be expecting a title tilt next season, as they often are. Whether it's going to be the precursor for one, obviously we have to wait and see.
Moving on to the cricket, where history was made this weekend. South African batsman AB de Villiers managed to hit a century off just 31 balls, so breaking the one-day international record. How much of a feat is this?
It's certainly indicative of the current state of cricket at the moment. We're awash with the shorter form of the game. From that point of view, it's not surprising that we're seeing the record go quite relatively frequently. As far as de Villiers goes, it's interesting, he's a good example in the fact that he's capable of excelling in all three formats. And there are very few players at the moment who even commit themselves to playing all three formats, let alone actually produce consistently in all three of them. Arguably the best all-round batsman in the world, along with someone like Virat Kohli. And a timely knock just a couple of weeks before the World Cup as well, when he's going to have favourable pitches, the ball coming on. Could even see the record broken again, you never know. Obviously there's only so far the record can go, but certainly I think we'll see it broken a couple more times in the next couple of years, I would think.
Finally, tennis. Andy Murray got his Australian Open campaign off to a good start with a straight sets victory over India's Yuki Bambry, but he's got a pretty tough draw from the fourth round onwards. If he gets that far, we're talking Grigor Dimitrov, we're talking Roger Federer, we're talking Rafael Nadal, and to cap it all off, Novak Djokovic potentially in the final. It's a tall order for Murray, surely.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that the pressure's off a little. He should see off Dimitrov, really. Dimitrov, yes, he did for him at Wimbledon, but otherwise, Murray, you would think, would have too much for him, particularly given his rigorous schedule over the Christmas and New Year period. You'd think he'd have too much. But yes, heading into the last 8, particularly Federer, end of the year so very, very well, albeit with an injury. Whether he even faces Nadal, whether even Nadal gets that far, we're not too sure. So I think the pressure is off a little bit. Quarterfinals, I think, will still be a fantastic achievement. Let's not forget he's ranked number 6 in the world. Quarterfinal finish would be an accurate representation of his last couple of months or so, albeit he has improved since sort of falling out of Wimbledon and didn't do too well at the US Open either. So, yeah, difficult. You've got to manage the expectations of Murray, getting to the first half of the American hardcourt season, and then into sort of the summer and Wimbledon. And I think we can demand a bit more of a radical improvement.
Well, for all our sports coverage, go to our website, ibtimes.co.uk/sport.